Today I've got a message. We're looking at the Old Testament. We're really just trying to kind of get our history, our collective stories as a way. That's why you take histories in counseling. You're trying to understand yourself, your story, what's going on here, why is this happening? So it's really important that we go back and talk about our stories. And so this is it's just the next verse that we're going to be talking about. And so I've got a message to speak, and just as important, and this will make sense as we get to the end, a way that I want to speak it. So I'm trusting the Lord to make both of those very clearly communicated to you. So I told Chris yesterday, I don't think I've ever had an original thought in my life. I'm just a stream of tributaries that have flown into me, and except this one. I think this is my one original thought. I'll claim it. Maybe it came from one of you. But it's pretty deep. You won't get it. If you have to think about it, pray, ponder on it, and then at about 3 o'clock today it might hit you. But here it is. Different people are different. Yeah, I know, right? Greg clearly doesn't get it yet. It's going to be a while. Tracy will be tutoring him this afternoon. And here's a subtitle. Different people are different, with this subtitle. Different isn't wrong, it's just different. We could use a dose of that, couldn't we, in this culture? Different isn't wrong, it's just different. Hey, Robbie. So Jen and I have been married for 37 years, and for the first 20 years, I made this statement, but very true. I would say to people, and she would roll her eyes, we are so alike, just so alike. For the last 17 years, I've made this statement, we are so different. So how do I explain that? How do those come together? Well, one, on the things that matter most, we see identically. Jesus, church, children, how to raise children, morality, the essentials, we are lockstep in. And then everything else, we're very different, which is not all bad. Here's my main point. It's designed to be that way. So let me give you some examples for us. She's a dreamer. I'm a maintainer. Don't want to try to unpack all of this, but a dreamer is a visionary. She sits around and fantasizes about all the things we're going to eat at family get-togethers and looks through magazines. It takes somebody thinking about that. I am not that. I can't visualize anything. If you take me in front of something and say, do you like that or that? I can tell you. I can't create anything. I'm a maintainer. You give me the A and the Z, and I know kind of what those are, and then just give me a lifetime to do that. I'm happy. Just want to maintain. Jen wrote probably my favorite blog of hers. By the way, I have encouraged her. You can help me. She's very gifted. If you've seen her Christmas letter, you know that. She used to blog back when on her website, and I think just life happened. But she's gifted, and what you're supposed to do with your gifts is share them. It doesn't matter who says what or knows or gets. That's not the call. You're supposed to share your giftings. So she's very gifted, and she's going to start doing that again. We're going to try to get it on the website. I'm already over my skis and all that, but somehow we'll get them on a form that you can see. But she blogged, one of her favorite blogs was Dreamers and Maintainers, and she talked about that. But you need both. Dreamers and you need maintainers. Just a couple other differences. Our thermostats are this. She's always hot. I'm always cold. I don't know. My hero is the guy or girl that invented in a car where that side can be whatever temperature and this side can be whatever temperature. I know it's a person 50 years or older that's been married for a while. That's what saved my marriage. We would be divorced if we didn't have that going on in a car. Lighting, For some unexplained reason, she loves to sit around the dark. I can't even see her, and she's reading something. Me, you could shine 5 spotlights on me, and it wouldn't be enough light. Seasons, she loves winter. I love summer. Differences can be threatening to the less mature. Maturity sees, big point here, maturity sees design in differences. Design in the differences. One of my favorite illustrations, I brought it a few weeks ago and didn't use it because I didn't have time for it, but prism, right? So prism takes light, white light, sunlight, and when it goes through here, right, Roy G. Biv happens, right? Red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet. Been a while. So if you can imagine, let's just say red and green and indigo had a debate. What is light? What's the color of light? Red, orange, blue. Well, they'd all be right and they could all be wrong, depending upon how they saw things. We are believers in Jesus, all of us that are part of his body. We've been given a gift. There are many varied, the scripture says, and we're to steward them. Like Jen's blog, you're supposed to use them. Employ it, Peter says. Don't just sit on your gift. It was given to be used. And it's varied. But it all comes from white light, even though it looks different, right? Prism, it's a really good, get one of those. They're not very expensive, I don't think. I think you can get them at Walmart now, but it's a really good, I keep it on my desk. So here's our title. Inherent to original design was a distinction of male and female. Original design, we talked about it last week. Glory. We were designed to glorify God. And part of the way we were designed is a male version and a female. And those two lights come together to express God in unique and different ways. So let's read our verse from last week. It's not on your sheet. Let me just read it. Last week we said, and we're trying to just get back to what is original design. What's original design? God created us with a purpose, and we talked about that last week. Verse 26 of Genesis 1. And God said, let us make man in our image according to our likeness and let them rule. So Father, Son, the Holy Spirit, they existed before anything was. That was the beginning that had no beginning. And then they said, let's make plants. They have physical bodies. Let's make plants and animals. They have soulish, if you will, mind, emotions, and will. But then he said, let's make man different in our image, in our likeness. God is spirit. And those who worship him and relate must worship in spirit and truth. We can be relationally satisfying to God because we can have relationship with him. Animals and plants don't do that. They glorify God. But they glorify God because they must. They're functional. They never say, God, I love you, God, I hate you, God, I couldn't care less. But we do. And that's where one way that we're different. And that was last week. Next verse. We are spiritual creatures. They are not. God is spirit, the Bible says. Verse 27. This is our verse for today. God created man. It's just the next verse. God created man in his own image. In the image of God, he created him male and female. He created them. So you get, I'm making you in my image, in my likeness. You're to glorify me. And then he does this. I'm going to make you male and female, different. Because you each bring something like Roy G. Biv does to what white light is. The difference between men and women are not just because of culture. They're designed. So let me tell you, I think this is a picture of a healthy masculine heart and a healthy feminine heart, which I don't claim to know a lot about, but I've talked about it a lot. I've never heard anybody differ with me. A male. Here's what I think is deeply in a male by design. This question. Do I have what it takes? Am I enough? Do I have what life is requiring of me to be a man? Step up. Men are typically find their identity, I'm not saying that's bad per se, in their achievements, their accomplishments, in what they do. We were created to move, to lead. Women's heart, a little different. I think in a woman's heart, its deep question is, does anybody see me? Do you notice me? Does anybody think I'm beautiful? Would anybody fight for me? And I think women tend to find their identity relationally. I think the scripture points out this difference in Ephesians 5 when it's talking about marriage, and it says, husbands, love your wives, and wives, you would think, love your husbands. It doesn't say that. Wives, respect your husbands. Now, why is that? I mean, I think that's in a feminine heart and a masculine heart, there's different needs. I mean, I'm being honest, not trying to be funny. So if Jen tells me, I thought about you all day, I cherish you, I appreciate that. But that's not what really hits my deep heart. If she says to me, you're the greatest man I know, I so respect you and believe in you, and your leadership has meant everything to me. That brings tears even now. Because that's my heart. I was made differently than she is. That's a different version, I think, of what's it look like to love her, and love to me, I want to be loved and cherished. I'm not saying that's not true. But what really means, if I think she respects me, believes in me. We each have a way, male and female, to reflect the image of God. I think males bring a strength. There is in a male deep desires, and I know we're just skimming over all this, but we'll come back, I'm sure, someday. There's a desire to protect, a desire to initiate, a desire to provide. That's in a male, I think, a healthy male heart. And in a woman, women bring beauty, a desire to nurture. Women notice people more than men. Women join people usually better than men. At weddings, I normally will always say at a wedding, if I don't say it at a wedding, I'll say it in premarital counseling. I will look at the guy, and got the girls, she's right there, and I will say to her, and I've never heard anybody contradict me. Women, I don't begin to know a woman's heart, right? You can correct me, but I've never had anybody correct me. I will say to him, she doesn't want to lead the journey. She doesn't want to be the journey. She wants to join a good-hearted man on a journey of something bigger than both of us. Women, is that right? I mean, don't feel pressured, but I can't see you because my glasses are blurry, but I'm going to believe that. I'm going to believe by faith that you're shaking your head yes. So Genesis 1:27, God created man in his own image. In the image of God, he created them male and female. He designed differences because these differences together more fully reflect God in glory. Not just in marriage, but just it's a version of reflecting God by his design. We are made differently for a specific reason and purpose, and that is to glorify God. That's what everything was made for. We talked about it last year. The way plant kingdom, animal kingdom, the heavens are telling the glory of God. You and I were made to glorify God. And like a prism, there's a female flavor to that and a male flavor to that is designed to be somewhat different. And of course, they overlap in so many ways. So an elementary study of anatomy shows that. Does it not? There's a difference. If you had a male doll, female doll, the anatomy, there is a difference, and it is designed a certain way. These two are designed to come together. And when you think about reproduction, there's a design. And by the way, I'm sharing a message today. I realize it may be tender and raw, certainly here or in the culture. The way I share this is as important as what I'm sharing, and that's on me. So if you stay with me till the end, I just beg of you, if this is egregious to you, but a boy and a girl are designed differently in a way by the Creator to come together. And reproduction doesn't always happen. We're struggling with infertility and miscarriages in our life. It's just brutal in our children. But a boy and a boy were not designed to come together. A girl and a girl, they just weren't made anatomically. So there's a word, it came out in the 1980s, and it came out because other words that meant to say something similar get abused. And that's what happens to sometimes good words. They get misused. You had them misused in your life, and so they carry with them something more than the definition itself. But this word I hold to, this church holds to, complementarian. It just means the created differences between male and female were designed to complement. That's where the word comes from. Complement each other to more fully express God. That's the purpose of it. One's not better or worse. It's just got its own way to glorify God. So, all right, we talk a lot about staying on the horse. Luther said we're like drunk men that fall off the horse one way. We try to compensate. We fall off the other way. We want to ride the horse. Here's two sides of the horse, okay? One, regarding this issue. There is much shame on this side because there have been, back up. The abuses to women under male domination, to our shame, men, in history. Just because men are stronger, bigger, they've been in leadership positions in the history a lot. There's so much that was done abusing women to our shame. That's one side of the horse. In the attempt to correct that, we've overcorrected. The negation of gender differences that are designed for beautiful significance. In other words, let's just neuter everything. There's no difference between male and female. That's off the horse on the other side. Let's go at it again. Think about the horse. There is much shame on one side, overly aggressive males that women can't endure. I'm called to worship. Overly aggressive males that women can't endure. That is a sad reality. That is not an overly aggressive man that just wills his way and just hollers louder and got brute strength. That's not a man. That's a little boy that never grew up. So there's much shame on that side. That's not what we're talking about. On the other side, there's much confusion in that correction by the culture, and what we've created is insecure males, passive, confused males that women can't enjoy. Can't endure this, can't enjoy that. Because I really do think what a woman wants is a appropriate, proper male that wants to take an initiating lead and love her well by protecting and side by side leading her. To be blind to this inherent fact of differences, it speaks to our distorted condition and inability to see the obvious. You with me? Even the animal kingdom doesn't distort male and female designed differences. This confusion between what's male, what's female, there's no distinction, anything goes. This confusion is a result of the spiraling of a power called sin. Sin, which is in our world, in our members, in our culture, it deceives, it's its design, and distorts, and then worse than that, it hardens. You don't want a hard heart. And that's where deception goes. What we see in the culture today isn't, and it's been going on forever, isn't the original intent. It's not what was designed, right? The Creator. Restoration is coming someday. That's Act 4. We're not there yet. We're in Act 3. Longing for Act 4. Come, Lord Jesus. Restore us. So I got a really important question for you, truly, very. It may be one of the most important questions you'll ever ask yourself. Where do you get your truth? Where do you get it? You get it from somewhere. And everybody's a theologian. As soon as you open your mouth and say God, you're a theologian. It just, what defined that? What has educated you? Where do you get your truth? And sadly today, we just get it from each other and the culture and the internet. But you've got to have a source of truth. The best source is something that's true today, and it was true 2,000 years ago and 4,000 years ago, because truth doesn't change. People do, but truth doesn't. So I'm going to be spending time in this text. It won't take long, but there's clear point here. And then the rest of the time, which goes quicker, Hetty tells guests she brings, hey, it gets quicker as you go down the outline. So we do. It's like going downhill. The last part is all about how I'm preaching this message, right? So there's the what and the how. So let's look at the what. And like Billy Graham would say, the Bible says you shouldn't care what I have to say if it's not based on the truth. For the word, the wrath of God, this is Romans 1:18, for the wrath of God is revealed from heaven against all ungodliness and unrighteousness of men who suppress the truth. Okay, they suppress the truth. That's verse 18. Let me quote verse 16. For the word of the gospel is the power of God for salvation to everyone who believes. So when you're a believer, you have this power called the gospel that does its saving work. Verse 16. Verse 18. There's another category of people who they don't believe the truth. They suppress it. And where does it go? For the wrath of God, which is a real thing, is revealed from heaven against all ungodliness and unrighteousness of men who suppress the truth in unrighteousness. Because that which is known about God is evident within them, for God made it evident to them. How? How does God make His truth evident? He's going to say to everybody. Verse 20. For since the creation of the world, His invisible attributes, God's, His eternal power and divine nature have been clearly seen, being understood through what has been made. Right? We talked about that last week. The heavens are telling of the glory of God. Look at the animal kingdom. Look at the plant world. Look at space. It's just screaming, this is my Father's world. He speaks to me everywhere. Open your eyes. They've been clearly seen, being understood through what has been made, so that they are without excuse. Nobody can show up to God and say, God never showed Himself to me. No, that's not true. It's screaming at you, but you may have suppressed it. For even though they knew God, they did not honor, same word as glorify Him, as God or give thanks. Why? Why do we suppress it? Because we want to run and rule our own lives. I don't want to tell somebody tell me what to do. By the way, it's a good place to pause and ask, who is on the throne of your heart? Who is on the throne? Not just talking about the unchristian. Who is on the throne of your heart? It's going to answer a lot about where we are. So that they are without excuse, for even though they knew God, they did not honor God or glorify Him as God or give thanks, but they became futile in their speculations. It means they became empty of thought. Their mind was led astray from the truth, which is 2 Corinthians 11:3 says that's what Satan's doing. He's trying to take truth out of your mind, and in that vacuum, something comes in there. You got some truth driving your life. They became futile in their speculations, and their foolish heart was darkened. Darkness of heart is scary, but it's not as scary as hardness of heart. That's where darkness undealt with goes. Hard heart. So the base issue, before we finish this text, is that people suppress the truth. And it leads to bad places. There's not time to go into much detail with this. I wish there was. But so we talked about the heavens last week and how they tell the glory of God, and nature. That's the macro. Gosh, it's just screaming God's glory. We didn't have the wherewithal till the last, 100 years or so to go micro, and telescopes that can blow up the human cells, and people that are a lot smarter than us that can say, oh, you know what? There's something called intelligent design. They don't even believe in God, maybe, or believe in Jesus. But like, this cell could not have evolved. That's called irreducible complexity. It means that human cell could not have evolved because everything about that cell needs to go on right now. So it had to be created. These are people that don't necessarily believe in God or Jesus. They're just studying the facts. Irreducible complexity, intelligent design. So not time to get there. A guy named Michael Behe is the one who's written a lot about irreducible complexity. But I want to read you two quotes, both atheists. One, a very kind of well-known atheist, and the other, an atheist who was a co-founder of DNA. And I want you to see in these quotes, they're short, how they are suppressing the truth in light of what's so clear to them because they're studying this micro stuff. Richard Dawkins, quote, avowed atheist. Biology is the study of complicated things that give the appearance of having been designed for a purpose. I mean, open your eyes. This one, next one, Francis Crick, an atheist. He was a co-founder of DNA. This blows my mind. Francis Crick says, biologists must constantly keep in mind that what they see has not been designed, but rather evolved. I want to read that one more time. Biologists must constantly keep in mind. So you're studying. I know what you're thinking. It's got design written all over it, but you can't go there. Biologists must constantly keep in mind that what they see has not been designed, but rather evolved. That's blindness. That's blindness. You can get there. You can be 4 PhDs and be blind. And this guy doesn't even have a 5th grade education, but he's been open to the truth and may be the wisest guy in the room. Verse 25, for they exchanged the truth of God for a lie. This is our human condition. It may be going on in this room, and worshiped and served the creature rather than the Creator who is blessed forever. Nothing wrong with created things unless you make them your God. I don't want you, mommy and daddy. I want your gift. I don't care anything about you. We believed the lie, and here's the lie, that a man can be man without God. And this lie brought much distortion to our purpose. That's why we don't glorify God. That's what we're made to do. We believed a lie that a man can be man without God. Verse 26, for this reason, and this is scary, God gave them over to degrading passions. Degrading just means shameful. It's not the intended passions. For their women exchange the natural function for that which is unnatural, and in the same way also the men abandoned the natural function of the woman and burned in their desire toward one another, men with men committing indecent acts and receiving in their own persons the due penalty of their error. So there's an obvious distortion in our culture that is a dramatization that just says this is not the way Creator designed it. There is sin that has affected our sight, and we're blind to some things, even though the culture says, no, it's wisdom. There's an exchange that's happened, and that break between man and God is dramatized in a bunch of ways. One of them that's not the worst. You got to hear, there's going to be a turn here in just a minute. We are not throwing rocks over at somebody's version of sin. You got to see yours, and I got to see mine. But we are saying this one, hear this respectfully, because the design difference, your problem is with the Creator. If you think a boy and a girl don't go together and reproduction should happen apart from that way, because somebody designed it that way. You following me? But it's not the worst. We're all equally distorted. It just illustrates our blind conflict with our Creator. And the fact that we can't see it or we fight it reveals our blindness, or worse, our hardness. Never forget, a man's morality will always dictate his theology. You people, culture, will go looking for people that are telling them or preaching to them things that go along with their life, because I don't want to change my life. I want to change my theology. But truth is where it starts, is to change your life. You and I need to conform our life to what's true, not trying to change the truth to go along with my life. Okay, so here's the last turn. It goes pretty quickly. We need to not lose the point about a particular distortion. I'm not here to talk about a particular distortion of the results of sin. We just read about it, and hopefully that will give you some place to stand in the culture that says, that's not true, what I just read. All sin is a distortion and insanity, and it will never satisfy the soul. That round hole that you have in your belly will not be filled with any square pegs. It takes a round peg. And his name is Jesus, and it's more specifically called Zoe life, the life of God. We talk about it a lot around here. But this is just one form of distortion. It's an obvious one, but it's just one that is a distortion from the original intent. We aren't functioning as we were intended. That's one way. There are others. So let's level the playing ground here. In case you hear me saying something over there, I'm saying us, me, at the front of the line. So the first, as a pastor, the first person that I tried to help in same-sex struggle, he was an indulger, but then he moved to a struggler. There's a difference, right? Do you indulge sin or do you struggle? If you're a battler, hey, all day. If you're indulging, you're in blindness, headed to hardness. So he came to me and just talked to me, and so I was trying to help him, and I was trying to find somebody that dealt in same-sex struggles, a ministry, and I couldn't find. This was, 30 years ago. Finally, I found somebody in Nashville, and it was a gentleman, he was a counselor, and he helped, and they had a support group, and I went down with my friend that I was pastoring to this support group. I think they met once a month, and I went once or twice. So I showed up. They knew I was coming. I'm a pastor coming into this. And I got a lot. So it was a counselor, room full of guys, same battle. or indulging. I guess they were battling or they wouldn't have been there. And I got a lot of angry glares. That was earned. Because we in the church have failed miserably in loving well. And one of the guys talking to me, but he's looking at the counselor, and he said, and these guys had gone to church, right, maybe grown up in it, but he said, yeah, so, and he gave me an example of this pastor of church he was at, this obese pastor that was just railing on homosexuality. And then I saw him out, this guy's telling the group, me, at Ryan Steakhouse with food piled up like this. And his point, which landed well, was, what right does he have? So I got a question. What's worse? Somebody same-sex struggle, or an arrogant religious zealot, or a gossipy murmurer? They're really all the same, except maybe the arrogant religious zealot is the worst. At least that's what Jesus, who he went after. We have got to see our version of our sin and let God and Scripture define truth, not the culture. Jesus said, for this I was born, for this I came into the world. It's a Christmas text. To bear witness to the truth. There is truth. But it comes from outside of us. You don't get to make your own truth. Football is going to be on today. I'll watch some. And let's say a guy fumbles. And if it's just this team says it's a fumble, no. Yes, no. Every man just doing what's right in his own eyes. What do you got to have there? You got to have the replay official in the booth from outside of you to say, here's the truth. You can't decide it on your own. You need something revealed from outside of you. We all have deep sin that feels like it's so deeply in me. I've struggled with this and felt this way since birth. Now I hear that as a reason or an excuse for same-sex struggles, and that validates that. I don't think it does. Let me help level the ground here a little bit. So, same-sex, I've just felt this all my life. It's so deep in me. I was born with it. Me, my people-pleasing, over-attachment to people's opinions, need to be chosen, is so deep in me. God's been refining it. I think it looks a little different now than it did, 5 years ago, 15 years ago, hopefully. But it is so deep in me. It's just there. You've got a version of something, I'm sure. It's just there. And I could talk about my mom and her dad. Her dad left her when she was in the womb. In the 30s and 40s, she grew up as a single mother, and she was a single child, and some of her stuff and how that affected me. And I don't say it to blame, but I could explain some. I just know this just rises up in me at times. It has through the years. I had a guy that I pastored early on, and he said, I'm just an angry person. I always have been. This is a distortion of the image and the effects of the exchange of the truth of God for a lie. These are all truly so deep. I was born with this struggle. I was born with this urge. That doesn't validate it. It just means we were born into sin. We were born separated from God. Let me throw a couple of verses on you. Psalm 51:5. In sin my mother conceived me. Romans 5:12. Through one man's sin, a power entered into the world, and death spread to all men because all sinned. It is, or for people like me, Christians, was our nature to sin. And now I am a battler. Don't want to be an indulger, but I will be a battler till the day I die. That's a definition of a Christian. One day I'll get a new body. I thank God I am looking forward to being away from here. I've told you before, I have never felt more joy in my life, and I've never wanted to go home more in my life. And I think that's healthy. So this disease like COVID, we were born in it, and it created some things that we were born with. It doesn't explain why it's right. It proves why it's wrong. We must see our version of sin and let God and Scripture define truth. Hear this, not the culture. We must let God and Scripture define truth, not the culture. So this is we are landing the plane. Hey, I don't know how this lands on you. It's love for me to say this. I know there's a lot of people in the room that might have a strong issue with what I'm saying here. I hope you hear my heart and include me in all of this. Love is doing what's best for the other person. Any sin, right? My 18-month grandchild, she just goes into hysterics when you take away that shiny object that she was reaching for called a knife. She wants it. She needs it. But it's love to take it out of her hands because it's not what she needs. Several years ago, some of you might have been around our community. There was something called the Fairness Ordinance. And I think it was the Rainbow Coalition in going through major cities in the state and trying to change discrimination laws. There were discrimination laws, but they wanted to change it in this way. They wanted to add to you can't discriminate, period, and then the certain groups based on sex, based on race, and based on sexual orientation. Well, there were some of us that spoke against that because once you do that, you've codified into law that issue. You've said you're born black or white, you're born male or female, you're born gay or not. And I don't believe that. And so some of us tried to speak rightly, not everybody, I'm sure others wrongly. And it did pass in our city. Other cities in the state it didn't, but it passed. And because I had spoken and a few others at City Hall, they randomly chose, you put your name in a hat. At the end of that, I don't know, a few months after all that passed, and there were some wounds, I'm sure, in our community, somebody, I don't know who, but they formed a group, and we all met at Walker Hall, and their heart was to bring unity to a divided community. And there were tables with a representative from each of these tables. There was a Christian table, there was a gay table, there was a table for laws, people that were in government and education, and there probably were a couple of others, but there were 4 or 5 speakers, and I have no idea why, but I was one of them. And we all had 10 minutes to speak to the group, right? It was all about unity, and here was what the lady asked me to speak on for 10 minutes. How to show compassion without compromising your conviction. It's a good question, one that I needed to be able to answer. And in that process of preparing that 10-minute talk, I came to a thing that was helpful, and I'll close with this. Here's the way I opened up that talk. And I'm standing in front of these groups, one of them being several gay homosexuality strugglers, people. And I just said, I'm so sorry. Please forgive me. I'm representing the church, right? I am the church. We haven't loved you well. And then my next thing in there was, I am the chief of sinners. And I really mean that. I'm not blowing smoke. I am the chief of sinners. If I really see that and believe that, how could I not have tolerance for you? I didn't say all of that to them, but I am the chief of sinners. And then in there somewhere in these 10 minutes, I said, I love you so much. I love you enough to tell you the truth. If you really love somebody, you want to tell them the truth for their good. how we convey truth and how we engage the culture really matters. Because as we say a lot, people don't care what you know till they know that you care. If there is a sense of love, if there is a sense of humility, if it's hard for me to say, if you find somebody and it's easy for them to say, I can't wait to unload this, it's probably wrong. But if it's hard, I love you enough to say a hard truth. Like today, I don't know where you all are. I don't even know some of you all. But I love you enough to tell you the truth. You just got to make sure in doing that your goal is right. My goal today, if I'm doing what I'm supposed to do, is love, not win. Not take a club and just win. And in our insecurities, we can get lost in that. It's a fight. No, I'm trying to love you. Where do I get that? 1 Timothy 1:3, Paul says to Timothy, I urged you, Timothy, young pastor, upon my departure from Macedonia, remain on at Ephesus so that you may instruct certain men not to teach strange doctrines. So people are in the church, they're teaching wrongly. And then he says, you've got to help teach against that. But beware that you don't fall off the horse, Timothy. The goal of our instruction is love. Got to remember this, Timothy. Kevin, you got to remember that the goal of your teaching is not win, it's love. And sometimes it looks different forms. Love from a pure heart and a good conscience and a sincere faith. Hey guys, many of you know it, or all of us know it, I think, but you've heard it. Love that pours from a sincere, authentic, pure heart is powerful. I see it all the time in recovery community. When I go to Center Point, some guys that I haven't met, some guys that have a really hard story, maybe a hard heart, love penetrates. Genuine, authentic, sincere love penetrates. When I go on the third Tuesday of the month, I cannot tell you how transfixed guys in that room are. I really believe a big part of it is I brought pudding and pizza. And that doesn't hurt. And maybe, like even today, you earn the right to speak. And some of you don't even know me. But maybe, if I've loved you well, if I've done my part, and keep loving you, maybe you might want to hear what I got to say. Amen. And you can receive it in a way different than if you feel like I got a sledgehammer. I love you. Thank you. Don't suppress the truth. Don't do it. Christian, non-Christian. It leads to bad places. It leads to darkness, deception, hardness. Open the door. Let the light in. Revelation 3:20, behold, I stand at the door and knock. He's knocking. And the latch, it's on the inside. Your call is repentance. Repentance. It's just a turn. Repentance is just a turn. It's not an earning. I don't know where you are, but your call to repent is not just, okay, got to work my way back. So we're playing a game. The object's over there. I got a blindfold. You're saying colder, colder, colder. And then I do this. And what do you say? Warmer, warmer. What's happened? I just turned. I'm not even there yet. I just turned. Would you bow your head as we close here? Father, hard words for all of us. It's not about one particular distortion of sin, but we do need to know how to engage it in the culture. But I am. I am the chief of sinners. I know that. I believe that. I'm not just saying that. And thank God you have forgiven me. So be kind to one another, tenderhearted, forgiving each other, just as God in Christ also has forgiven you. Because of that, I've got lots of tolerance. I think I've got lots of love. I want to have lots of kindness because I know what's been shown to me. And I want to be a means for you to show that to others. So, Father, I just pray in this last song, non-believer, believer, we've had a manifestation of the gospel in a baptistry, but the call for any of us that have lost our way is simply repentance. It's just a turn. It's not earning. It's just a turn. And then you look straight in the eyes with moist eyes. It says, warmer. Now come home.